Welcome to NareshIT Technologies. My name is Mahesh. I'm taking Java and Android classes training in Naresh IT. Okay. So in my previous video, I explained about Android Studio project creation and what are the different things involved in creating the project. Okay. So now here, in this video, I'll explain the directory structure of Android application. Like when you create a project, when you create in Android, we got some different directories we got. If you see here, there is a folder called manifest, Java, resource. Again, if you select this resource folder, you will get a lot of subfolders like drawable, layout, mipmap, values, like we got a lot of subfolders we got. So we'll discuss about this directory structure, we'll discuss. Mainly when you create a project, if you create in Android, we got these are the three main folders: manifest, Java, resource and Gradle file. Okay. So we'll discuss about this each and every directory we'll discuss. Let me list out first what are the directories we got. So mainly we got three directories we got here, three folders. I created a project I created called Hello NIT is a project. I created a project I created called what? Hello NIT is a project. In this project, Hello NIT project, mainly we got two folders we got mainly. One is the app, second thing is Gradle. When you create a project in Android, mainly these are the two folders we got. Okay. So mainly the developer will get a requirement of working with this app module. Okay. So again in the app, there are three more modules are there. I mean three more directories are there again in the app. Let's see what are the other three directories inside this app. So one is Java. Inside this app, you get three more directories. One is Java, second thing is resource and manifest. These are the subdirectories inside the app folder. Now here, okay, Java means, let's take first folder. What is the first one? Java. So we discussed already in the previous video, like for each and every screen in Android, we had to create one XML we had to create and a Java file we had to create. All the .java files, we will place inside this Java folder, we will place all the .java files. Again in the Java folder, you'll get a package name you'll get, meaning what are the package name you specified for your application. First, you'll get a folder with the package name. Inside the Java folder, you will get a folder you will get with the package name. Let's see here, let's see the project structure in app. If we select this app, if we select Java, so we got three different folders with the same package name. Let's see here, cubexsoft.hellonit and cubexsoft.hellonit. In the brackets you can find Android test and testing purpose. The two directories is for the testing purpose, it's not for development, it's not a development folder. Let's take the first one, cubexsoft.hellonit. It doesn't have any like test kind of thing in the brackets, right? So this is a development package name. So in this package, we had to place all the .java files we had to place in this package. If you want, you can create, let us take this is a main root package. Apart from this, you can, if you want, you can create the other package also you can create. But this is a root package. And this is a package name of our Android application. So inside the app folder, you can find a folder with the package name. Okay. Inside this package name, we'll place all the .java files. Whatever the Java files are required for our project, we'll place all the .java files, we'll place inside this package name folder, we'll place all the .java files. The next thing is nothing but resource folder. Resource, RES is termed as resource. What is the purpose of this resource folder? Purpose of resource folder is nothing but, see, creating a project means it's not only a Java file and XML file. Along with these two files, we require some lot of other supporting files are required like images, some audio files if you are using audio files are required, some PDF files, text files, XML files. So a lot of files are required, meaning apart from XML file and Java file, we require some lot of other files also required. So we'll place all those files, we'll place into resource folder, we'll place all those files. That's why they're given a name as resource, meaning whatever the files or resources are required for creating your project, we'll place all those resources, we'll place inside the resource folder, we'll place. But if you see here in the resource folder, you can find a lot of subdirectories you can find here. So click on this resource, you can find a lot of subfolders like drawable, layout, mipmap, values. So you can find a lot of subfolders you can find in the resource folder. Let's see what is the purpose of each and every folder in this resource folder. Okay. So let me list out all the subdirectories inside the resource folder. Inside this resource folder, we got a lot of subfolders like one is drawable is one folder, layout is one folder, drawable, layout, map, and we got one more folder called values. Okay. Next, of course, the folder is not available, but if you want, you can create some more folders. You can create like menu is one folder, ra is one folder, like around almost all 15 to 20 folders you can create inside this resource folder. If you want, you can create some new folders. If you can create 15 to 20 new folders you can create inside the resource folder. Let's see the first one. What is the first one? Drawable folder. In your application, if you have any images like .png files, .jpg files, okay, so if you have any images, place that images in the drawable folder, except application icon. Application icon will place in the map folder will place, except the application icon. If you have any images, or programmatically we can do some animations kind of thing we can do, not animations to say frankly, like programmatically we can create some shapes, we can create programmatic XML file by using XML file. Even that XML file also will place in the drawable folder. Now majority of the places will get a requirement of placing the images in the drawable folder. Let's take a drawable folder is for Android is recommended to use .png format for the images. Okay, so all the images, whatever the images you are using in your project, okay, place those images in which folder? In the drawable folder we will place the images. Okay. Next, what is the next one? Layout folder. We discussed, right, for each and every screen XML file and Java file is required. Technically XML file is called as what? Layout. So all the user interface XML files, why I use a term UI XML? Because there are some other XML files also there. We had to place other XML files also we had to place in the project resource folder. All the user interface XML files we had to place inside the layout folder we had to place. All the UI XML files we had to place inside the layout folder. Okay. Next, what is the next folder name? Map. Map is specific to application icon. Drawable folder you can place any image you can place in the drawable folder, but map folder is specific to application icon. For every application an icon should be there, right? Correct or not? That is different from drawable folder. Earlier in case of Android Studio, it is taking the application icon also from the drawable folder, but now here they give a separate folder called map. Okay, place your application icon in this, place the application icon in map folder. Okay. Next folder is nothing but values folder. In this values folder, mainly you will get a file called strings.xml file. You will get strings.xml is one thing, and one more thing called styles.xml, strings.xml, styles.xml file, like dimensions.xml, one more thing called dimensions.xml file. In this values folder, okay, this strings.xml, styles.xml, dimensions.xml file, these kind of XML files will place inside them in the values folder. In the values folder, let's take for example in our previous screen, login screen only, let's take you want to create one simple example why this strings.xml file is. You want to create a simple login page, you want to create a username, a password and a login button. Just give me a second. I create a simple login page I created, but my requirement is if user phone language is English, so display in English. For example, if user phone language is set to Hindi, this username, password and login, this text is there, right? This text I want to display in Hindi language I want to display. Let's take if user phone is language is Arabic, I want to display in Arabic language I want to display. Meaning I want to provide an internationalization support I want to provide for my application. I want to provide what? I-18N internationalization support I want to provide for my application, I want to provide the support. Then to provide that internationalization support, in different language support if you want to provide, Android is not recommended to hard code the string in your program. Like for example, in other programming language what we will do is simply we will create a button we will create and text is equals to will configure as login is a text will configure. But here there is a file called strings.xml is a XML file name. Strings.xml is what? XML file name. In this strings.xml file we have to configure the values, and wherever you have a requirement of displaying some text we use @string, that key whatever we configured that key will specify. Basically the purpose of giving this strings.xml file is nothing but to provide the internationalization support for your application. Okay. Now styles.xml means if you want to configure in your application, if you want to configure some styles, like all the buttons should be with these properties, like all the text boxes should be with these properties, like those styles if you want to configure, we use this styles.xml. And dimensions.xml if you want to specify, like dimensions means nothing but like, you know, in all the sites I want to get margin I want to get in all the sites 5 pixels. Like these kind of dimensions if you want to specify, we'll configure in the dimensions.xml will specify. And the next thing is nothing but menu folder. Even in this menu folder also, you can find an XML file you can find. Let's say I'm specifying menu.xml file. You can give any name you can specify, but just for sample, I given a name as menu.xml is the name I specified. So what exactly this menu.xml is? In simple to say what exactly menu options is, let's take, I hope you guys are seen this WhatsApp screen, right? For example, here you can find a WhatsApp icon you can find here, and you can find different categories you can find here like calls, chats and contacts, right? In WhatsApp welcome screen you can find these categories you can find. On the right side corner you can find these 3 dots you can find. On the right side you can find these 3 dots, not only in WhatsApp, just I take an example, I taken WhatsApp, okay. You can find in different applications you can find these 3 dots option you can find, right. If you click on that 3 dots menu, if you click, you will get a drop down menu, you will get, it will show you some values, it will show you like block the contacts, okay, like create a group, like those kind of options you will get. So those kind of options, where the developer will configure those kind of options is, the developer will configure those options after selecting these 3 dots, developer will configure those options in the menu.xml file, developer will configure, okay. So this is one place, I mean these are also many of the options. And one more thing, and if you see Play Store kind of applications, if you see here, when you click on this left side, right side you can find the 3 dots menu you can create, as well as even the in few applications like especially like Play Store or these kind of applications or Gmail applications, when you click on these three lines at the left side, when you click on this, you are going to get a separate slider you are going to get. You are going to get what? A separate slider you are going to get. Where the developer will configure those slider items also, developer will configure those items, developer will configure in the menu.xml file, developer will configure, okay. Even this right side 3 dots menu, when you click on that menu icon, you are going to get some list of menu options you are going to get. Those options developer will configure in the menu.xml. And even if you want to create this navigable slider, okay, a navigation view, when user clicks that particular icon, if you want to show some options, if you want to show those options also, developer will configure in the menu.xml. That is the purpose of menu folder. Next, the raw folder. The purpose of raw folder is, apart from the images, XML files, if you want to hold any other format files, like you want to hold some audio files, you want to hold some PDF files, you want to hold some XML files or text files. So these formats of data if you want to maintain, like .mp4 files, place those files in the raw folder, okay. This is the purpose of raw folder. Just I specify, for example I specified 2 formats, okay. You can, to say frankly, you can place any type, any format like .mp3, .mp4, the Android supported formats you can place in the raw folder you can place. There is one more option, that one more folder is remaining. What is that one? A manifest.xml. Inside this manifest.xml folder, you can find a file called Android manifest.xml. So I am specifying here. Inside the manifest folder, inside this manifest folder, you can find a file called Android manifest.xml file you can find. Inside this manifest folder, you can find a XML file called what? Android manifest.xml file you can find. What is this Android manifest.xml? Android manifest.xml provides complete description about the application. In short, the definition of manifest.xml is, Android manifest.xml provides complete description about the application. Complete description means nothing but here, like how many screens are there in your project, if user required any permissions, or if the device using if the application is using any specific features, how many background services are there, okay, like each and everything about our project. And what is the initial screen in your application, like each and everything will configure in the manifest.xml. I'll repeat again what we'll configure. We'll configure how many screens are there in your project, like each and every screen we had to configure in the manifest.xml with activity tag. How many screens are there, how many background services are there, user required any permissions are required for your application, what is the initial screen in your application, like these kind of thing will configure in the manifest.xml. Or even if you take earlier before this studio environment and Gradle builder type, if you take Eclipse based project, there is no option of Gradle files there. There will configure even what is the package name, what is the package name of your application, what is the application icon. Okay, of course application icon now also we specify in the manifest.xml only. What is the minimum SDK version, what is the target SDK version, like those kind of thing, everything will configure in the manifest.xml only will configure. But some of the options which are available in the manifest.xml in the Eclipse based environment, those things are moved into Gradle file in the Android Studio, like what is the project version, okay, what is your version name, okay, next what is a SDK version, target version, minimum version, like these things they moved into Android Gradle file they moved. Okay, now in the manifest.xml we'll configure what is the application icon, what is the how many screens are there in your project, how many background services are there, if user required any permissions, or if the application is using any specific features. Okay, yeah, these kind of thing will configure in the manifest.xml. See here, just open the manifest folder. In this manifest folder you can find a file called android manifest.xml is a XML file name. Let's open this file. So you got manifest, what is the package name of your application, so cubexsoft.hello.nit, and what is the application icon, it is taking an application icon from the map folder it is taking. Okay, so support RTL, and what is the theme and how many activities are there, like each and every activity of an application will have to configure inside the manifest.xml with the activity tag. If you are having any services, let's configure the services also inside the application tag. Like I told you, right, each and everything will have to configure in the manifest.xml about your application, or it gives a complete description about the application. And another important thing is Android a platform. Before installing the application and before start the application, before install the application, before start the application, it reads a manifest.xml file. Then how can you say that one before going to install the application and before going to start the application, it reads what? Manifest.xml file. So how can you say this statement? Play.google. I'm opening the Google Play Store. Let's take. I'm trying to download. Select these games or apps. So you got some apps we got here. Let's take. I'm trying to download this Hangama app. I'm trying to download. Let's click on this app. Okay, I selected install button. I selected install. I selected. Okay, it's asking to sign in. Just give me a minute. I'll sign in. Okay, now I selected install. I selected. Now I selected install, and see here, this application has access to in-app purchases, device and app history, identity information, location information, phone, photos, media, a Wi-Fi connection, device ID information, and other receive data from internet. Meaning if you install this application, this application is accessing all these things like in-app purchases, device and app history, identity, location, phone, photos, media files, and it is accessing all these details. It is accessing. Where the developer will configure these details, like this application is accessing the device and app history. This application is accessing the phone, photos, media, files, Wi-Fi. Where the developer will configure all these details? Developer will configure all these details in manifest.xml file. Meaning before installing the application only, Android platform is reading the manifest.xml, because the developer will configure these details in the manifest.xml only. Nowhere, in my experience I'm telling you, nowhere will configure, let's take this application need these permissions, nowhere will configure. So when you try to install the application from the Play Store, first Play Store is going to read the manifest.xml file, whether this device will support for this application or not. I told you, right, before installing the application, before start the application also. Okay, we seen before the install the application, like how I justified my answer, like it is reading the manifest.xml is, Yes, if we click on the install button, it is asking the list of permissions. Developer is going to configure these permissions in the manifest.xml only. So it is before installing the application, it is reading the manifest.xml. Before going to start the application also, let's take I install the application, I install, and before going to start the application also, it reads manifest.xml file. Then that statement, how can you justify? Before going to start the application, it reads manifest.xml. It's simple. Like, let's take a WhatsApp. When you open the WhatsApp application and you open, we got contacts, calls and chats. This is the initial screen you will get. Initially what you will get? Initially we will get chats, we will get, correct or not? The recent chats we will get. It contains, WhatsApp contains calls, chats, contacts, and it contains a lot of other screens it contains. But we will not get the other screens, we will not get. We will get the chat screen, we will get first. Meaning where the developer will configure that one, this is the initial screen in my application. Developer will configure that one also in the manifest.xml. This is the initial screen in my application. So when you start the application, like first Android platform is going to read the manifest.xml. Okay, this is the initial screen in the application. So that's why it will display that screen to display. Okay, so in this way I justified my answer, like before installing the application and before start the application, Android platform reads manifest.xml file. These are the three visible folders: Java, resource, manifest. These are the three visible folders when you create a project. But along with these two things, there are two more important files are there which you have to understand. Okay, in case of Eclipse, directly those folders are visible, but from Android Studio onwards, they are not showing those files, because the developer will never get a requirement of working with those two files. They are hiding that files, they are hiding. Okay, let's see here what exactly that file. One of the most important thing, one is R.java. Lot of developers blindly will use without understanding what exactly this R.java is. I see in my experience, a lot of people blindly they use, okay, if you want to get any file from resource, use R.java, without understanding anything about the R.java file, what exactly R.java and all. Okay, so let's see first what exactly R.java is. Okay, I'll write some statements I'll write about this R.java file. Let's see what exactly R.java is. Let's take first thing, R is termed as resource. R is termed as what? Resource. Have you seen anywhere this resource term? Yes, we seen. In our project, when you create a project, so we got a folder we got in the project called resource, RES. This R is termed as resource. R is termed as what? Resource. Meaning in our project there is a folder called resource is a folder. We understand that the purpose of this resource folder is, if you want to place any files, if you want to place like images, audios, videos, if you want to place any files, if you want to place, we'll place the files, we'll place in the resource folder. This R.java is pointing toward this resource folder, meaning this R is representing this resource folder. R is representing what? Resource folder. Okay, R is termed as resource. Okay, fine. What is the purpose of this R.java? R.java is an abstraction between the Java file. R.java is an abstraction between the Java file and different resources which are available in resource folder. R.java is an abstraction between the Java file and different resources which are available in resource folder. Okay, what is the meaning of this statement? It's an abstraction between the Java file and different resources which are available in resource folder. Simple. Basically, we place the files we placed in where we place the files? We place the files we placed in the resource folder, we place the files. Where we have a requirement of accessing these files? In Java code. We place the files we placed in the resource folder, we place the files, but actually in the development we will get a requirement of accessing that files what we placed in the resource folder. We will get a requirement of accessing these files in the Java folder. So how can we access the files which we placed in the resource folder? How can you access that files into your Java code? With the help of R.java. That's why I used the term. Let's take a large image. I'll take just 1 second. This is what we are discussing, right? So purpose of this R.java is, this R.java is an abstraction between the Java file We'll place the files, we'll place in the resource folder, we'll place the files, but in the development, we'll get a requirement of accessing these files in the Java code. We'll place the files, we'll place in the resource folder, but actually in the development, we'll get requirement of accessing those files in the Java code, right? So now here, where exactly R.java will comes into the picture is, R.java is an abstraction between these two files, the resource folder and the Java folder. What is that? R.java. Okay, it's a mediator. It's a mediator between the resource folder and the Java folder. Next, let's see how to access these files in the Java folder. Okay, just for your understanding. Exactly, let's take R.java is a mediator between these two files, R.java. Next statement is important. Let's try to understand the next statement. Next statement is, for every resource in resource folder, for every resource in resource folder, it will create a static integer field in R.java. Okay, try to understand this statement because it's most important, and a lot of even experienced people also don't know this one, what exactly internally in the R.java file. For every resource in resource folder, it will create a static integer field in R.java. It will create what? A static integer field in R.java. With the help of this integer field, we can access the resource in two activity. For every resource in resource folder, it will create a static integer field in R.java. With the help of the static integer field, we can access the resource into the Java code you can access, activity code. Let's see what exactly this R.java means. The name itself is describing it's a Java file, .java file. So nothing but internally it's going to create a class, it will create internally. Let's take class. The class name is nothing but R is a class name. Okay, fine. It's nothing but a Java class. For each and every folder what you are placing inside the resource folder, it is going to create a static inner class it will create. Let's take for example, there is a folder called drawable. There is a folder called what? Drawable. For this drawable folder, drawable, layout, map, values, menu, raw, for each and every folder, it will create a static inner class it will create in the R.java file. Let's take for example, class, drawable is a class name. What is the class name? Drawable. I told you, right? For each and every class, for each and every folder, it will create a static inner class it will create. Static class, it will create a static inner class. Static class drawable. Static class drawable. For each and every folder, it's going to create a static inner class it will create. For example, there is a folder called layout is a folder, for example. Like for each and every class, it will create what? A static inner class it will create. Static class, what is the folder name? Layout is a folder. For each and every folder, it will create a static inner class it will create in the R.java file. For example, in drawable folder, there is a file you placed in the drawable folder called test.png. Just for example, you placed a file in the drawable folder. What is the file name? Test.png file you placed in the drawable folder. For example, in the layout folder, you placed a file called main.xml is a XML file you placed in the layout folder. Test.png file you placed into the drawable folder. A main.xml file you placed in the layout folder. Each and every file what you are placing inside the resource folder, inside the particular folder, for that each and every file, it is going to create a static integer field it will create. For each and every file, it will create what? A static integer field. For folder, it's going to create a class. Like drawable, it's going to create a static inner class. Layout, it will create a static inner class. Menu, it will create a static inner class. For each and every file, it will create what? Static integer field it will create. For example, you placed a file called test, right? Inside this drawable folder, it will create a static integer field it will create. Static int, what is the file name? Test. It's going to assign some address location, it's going to assign for this. And you placed a file in the layout folder called main.xml. Even for this file also, it will create a static inner field it will create called static int menu. It's going to assign some address location, it's going to assign for these things. Now, if you want to access this file, if you want to access in your Java code, let's take for example, in your Java code, you have a requirement of accessing this test.image. Simply we'll write R is nothing but a class name. These are the static inner classes, static class drawable, static class layout, static class raw. It's a static inner class. So no need to create the object to call the static inner classes, right? So simply specify what is a static class name, because it's a static inner class. That's why I'm calling without creating the object. With the help of the class name I'm accessing r.drawable. And this test, even this test is also, it's a static variable. It's a static variable, so no need to create any object for calling this variable. It's not an instance variable, it's a static variable. Simply test. One more thing, there is a static inner class called layout is a static inner class. Layout is a static inner class. This layout class contains an integer field called menu. So if you want to access, how will access that one? R dot layout dot will specify, menu will specify. So you can access that. With the help of these static integer fields, we can access those, those resources what you place in the resource folder, those resources we can access into our Java code with the help of these static integer fields. Where you are going to get these fields? In the r.java file. That's what the meaning of that statement, the last statement what is specified. For every resource in resource folder, whatever the file you are placing, for each and every folder it will create a static inner class. For each and every file inside those folders, it is going to create a static integer field it will create. With the help of that static integer field, you can access that particular resource, you can access into your Java code, you can access. Okay, that's what I specified here. For example, if you want to access, like you placed a file in the drawable folder, you placed a file, for example, if you want to access, we will call r.drawable. Test is a file name we placed. Okay, in layout folder there is a file called menu, r.layout.menu is a folder name. Like in this way, we'll access the files we'll access in the Java code we'll access. That is a purpose of r.java file. Even this r.java file also will create in our project itself, but that file, that r.java file will not be visible to the user, okay, because they are not removed. In case of Eclipse folder, it's available, Eclipse based project, it's available in the gen folder, you can find r.java file, but in Android Studio, they are not showing this file because the developer will never get a requirement of working on this r.java file. So they are creating, internally they are creating this r.java file they are creating, okay. This is also another important file, r.java file, and lot of developers I seen in my experience without knowing these things, so directly they'll, in hundreds of times in their programs, they'll write simply r.java and all. Okay, this is a story behind this r.java file. Okay, there is another important file. Called .apk file. Okay, of course, even this file is also not visible to the user and automatically not generate. So once if you run the program, it's going to generate the .apk file. It's going to generate. Let's see what exactly this .apk is. .apk is termed as Android application package. It is the installation file in Android platform. Like if you want to install any application, if you want to install in Android, we require a file called .apk file. Like same like a .exe in case of Windows and .dmg in case of Windows Mac. So here, if you want to install any application, if you want to install in Android, we require this .apk file. Okay, it's termed as what? Android application package. It is an installation file in Android platform. So .apk consists, internally this .apk file consists, .dex, resource, assets, lib and manifest.xml. .dex, resource, assets, library and manifest.xml, meaning if you build a project, if you build a project, internally this .apk file contains of all these things, .dex, resource, assets, lib and manifest.xml. You know, we know about this, what exactly these resources, like in our project, if you want to hold any files, we'll place the files, we'll place in the resource folder. That's what we are discussing, the purpose of the resource folder. We already discussed in this video only, we discussed what exactly the resource folder. If you want to hold any files, we'll place those files, we'll place in the resource folder, we'll place that files. And even the assets is also same, like resource folder, we are having one more folder called assets folder. Even you can place the files, you can place in the assets folder also, you can place that files. Okay, so the difference is nothing but if you place the files in resource folder, you can access in XML, you can access as well as in Java also you can access. But if you place the files in assets folder, you can access only in Java only we can access. But if you place the file in assets folder, you can access only in Java only you can access. So based on that you have to choose. Okay. Next, library means if you are using any third party libraries, third party jar files if you are using, so those will place into the libraries folder, will place that files. And we discussed about what exactly this manifest folder. And .dx means nothing but, we discussed, right? So basically we are going to write the Java code, we'll write, and it's going to generate what? Dot class will generate. I mean, we'll submit this Java code, we'll submit to whom? To JDK will submit. One of the tool in JDK is nothing but Java C. Java C is going to compile your Java code, it will produce a dot class file. We'll submit this dot class file, we'll submit to whom? To DVM. We'll submit this dot class file, we'll submit to whom? To DVM will submit. We discussed already in the initial class Android architecture. So we'll submit this Java bytecode, we'll submit to DVM will submit. So DVM directly will not execute that Java bytecode. First DVM is going to convert into its own bytecode a format called .dx, meaning ultimately this .dx means nothing but the Java code what you written. This .dx means nothing but ultimately the Java code what you written. Now we are having some reverse engineering techniques also there, like that's what the security drawback of Android in the couple of months back. Like you can get the .dx file. There are some reverse engineering by doing some reverse engineering. We can get from .dx to .class to Java code you can get. But now the Android Studio is providing some, like we call as thing bifurcation. I guess there's a technical term that for that one. I don't remember exactly. Bifurcation, I guess, bifurcation. Okay. There are some tools that came into the market like ProGuard or these kind of options you can configure in your Android Studio, and you can provide the security you can provide to extract from .dx to .java file. Okay. So this is about the .apk file. This is about what? .apk file. So if you want, you can extract this .apk file, you can extract and you can see. Let's work on that. We'll extract that .apk file, will extract, and we'll see really this .apk file contains all these things or not. Okay. Just give me a second, I'll download any one of the application I'll download. Let's take, we'll place this application only. Let's take Hangama APK, we'll download, and we'll do some reverse engineering, meaning we'll extract that APK file, we'll try to extract. Not from Play Store, you cannot download the, we require the .apk file is required. So let's download this .apk file. Yet I'm trying to look that APK file, just, yeah, it's downloading. It's downloading the APK file. It is downloading the .apk file, it is downloading. Yeah, it's downloaded the APK file, and we'll extract this APK file, will extract. So if you want to extract the APK file and if you want to see what that APK file contains, first of all we have to rename that APK file. First we have to rename the APK file from .apk to .zip file. Completely I'm renaming the file, I'm renaming completely. Let's take from .apk, let's take, I specified Hangama dot. In place of .apk, let's replace with what? .zip file will replace. It's a zip file, we can extract, right? We can extract this zip file, you can extract. I'm extracting that zip file, I'm extracting. I'm trying to extract that zip file, I'm trying to extract hangama.zip. There is some issue with this .apk file, and we'll try to download from other source I'm trying to download. So it's downloading, so wait for another few minutes, okay. Just rename the .apk file with .zip and you can extract the .zip file, you can extract. I told you, right, just rename this .apk file with what? .zip file. Just rename it. I'm specifying the APK file name as hangama1.apk. You can extract this. It's a .apk file, right? You can extract this .apk file. You can extract. Just okay. Use .zip file. Now you can extract this zip file. You can extract hangama.zip. Okay. Let's open that. So let's extract it. Now see the files which are created in this zip folder. We extracted that file, we extracted. Let's see that folder, hangama.apk. Now the APK file contains these things, like it contains a file called classes.dx, a classes.dx and classes2.dx. .dx file is nothing but ultimately your Java code. And you can find a project, you can find a .xml file, Android manifest.xml, and you can find a folder called assets is a folder. They placed few images, they placed in the assets folder. Maybe they are accessing those files from the assets folder. Maybe they are accessing in the Java code, they are accessing. That's why they placed those files they placed in the assets folder. See, they placed the fonts also, they placed in the assets folder. and there is one more folder called resource folder, resource, assets, manifest, libraries, like the same like as we discussed. We got the APK file we got and we extracted the APK file. Internal .apk file contains these files APK file contains. Okay, this is about the .apk file. And the last thing is nothing but you are going to get a Gradle file. You'll get what? One more thing, last thing is nothing but we discussed the app module we discussed. Inside this app, these are the main folders. Java, we discussed about the Java folder, resource, manifest, and we discussed about the files which is not visible to the user, r.java and apk. And the last thing is nothing but Gradle. That's another important thing which is introduced from Android Studio version onwards, this Gradle file. To say in short like what exactly Gradle means, it's a build tool. Gradle is a build tool, like how we are having Ant in the same way. So Gradle is also a build tool for Android. Okay, I mean what we'll configure in this Gradle file is, if you select this Gradle, you'll get again lot of files you'll get. Okay, so maximum you'll get a requirement of working on this build.gradle file for app module. See, in this build.gradle app module, let's take what we configure, like what is the compile SDK version, what is your target SDK, compile SDK, what is the minimum SDK, what is the version code of your project, and what is the version name. Like if you are having multiple versions, like if I already released an application into Play Store, I want to give a new update I want to give for my application, simply we'll update the version code, I'll update and we'll deploy into Play Store. Like next, are you using any third party libraries are using? So here like we'll configure all the dependency libraries, we'll configure. Okay, like all these configurations will configure in the build.gradle will configure. Earlier these configurations will do even in the manifest.xml. Now they moved these things into the Gradle file. They moved like what is a package name, okay, and what is the package name of your application, what is the minimum SDK, target SDK, your application version name, and third party libraries, like each and everything. These configurations will configure in the Gradle.xml file. Gradle file will configure. It's a to say short, it's a build tool for Android application, and in this build tool, the Gradle file will configure about the project software related things, like what is a version, okay, are using any third party libraries, like these things will configure in the Gradle file will configure. Okay, so I hope you guys understand. Okay, and in our next video I'll explain, we'll start the discussion with the first XML file. What is this XML, how to design the simple screens by using this XML file. So thank you for watching. Thank you.